We're live. Woohoo! We are live. After Vegas, I'm kind of surprised. Wow, my longboard scars didn't heal up as much as I thought they would. Damn. Anyway, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. So we're just gonna get right into it. So Vegas, obviously, I have my got my cheap airport hoodie. It was on sale, but it was has a picture of the strip and everything. I thought it was pretty cool. So why not? So yeah, Vegas was a lot of fun. I went there for the FNT meetup, hanging out for a few days with Iron, Selena, Vaughn, Theo, Snodgrass, Vagabond, Professor Savage Dad, a ton of the people you usually see here in the chat. It was a lot of fun. I really had a good time. Did not get the hangover treatment though, but certainly not for lack of trying. Just hanging out in the bar that's near where we usually camp out, and usually the hotel. It's the bar in the hotel that we usually stay in. It's a lot of fun. It's the Oasis and the Oasis at Gold Spike, and it's there's a whole like fun place inside that you can just hang out in, and yeah, I really enjoyed myself. Got to see Vegas, a lot more of Vegas this time, because last year I only got to see it for one night, and it was better, much better this time, because my flight actually got in on time. I had no issues flying through a hurricane, and it was an absolute blast. And the meetup itself was similarly a ton of fun. Just everybody was super nice, as they always are. Getting to say hi to Ryan Kinnell, X-Ray Girl. I think Stephanie from My Nerdy Home was there. Jen Saska, not Sylvia Saska. She was the only representative from the Ripperverse there. And then, of course, Gary and Quarter Block Garrett. It was an absolute blast. I really enjoyed it. And those guys are really authentic people. And they recognized me, actually. I don't think you remember my name, but they recognized me at least by face. That's kind of how you have to do it with a lot of these things. Because you go there and you're there to meet the people that you're there to meet with, but you often forget what people look like, because there's a lot of crossover. Because in the Dallas meetup, there's a lot of people out in Dallas that I met here actually learned their names this time, which was a lot of fun. But it was a really good time. Got to pal around, drink with a lot of my on-screen friends from the Rogues Gallery, and it's really cool to see that we are indeed friends in real life. We do get along. It was also kind of funny because there was an attempt to be organized. There was an attempt to be try to plan things. It didn't work out though. It didn't work out, but it's okay. It's not supposed to. We're there to just hang out and have fun. Actually, it's pretty awesome. But it's actually even better. There were a ton of people. There was a ton of people in our group. But we actually got a nice little shout out from Gary from Nerdrotic on 2 occasions on actual Friday Night Tights, which is the show that everybody watches. And then there was we got another shout out on, I say it was Iron Oxide got a shout out. Got a shout out on the Nerdrotic Nooner, saying how much fun we have, and he's actually kind of jealous, has a little FOMO. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm a part of that group. That was fun. We did have a lot of fun. There was trying to do karaoke because WrestleMania was in town that weekend. Everybody was out. Everybody was out at karaoke. Everybody was out at Fremont Street because the hotel that we stayed at was steps away from Fremont. And I finally got to see it at night. The last night I was there by myself. Because we tried. We desperately. My camera is crooked. Wow. So we had tried quite a bit to go out and kind of have a night in the town. We succeeded quite a few times. And yeah, had a pretty good night in the town quite often. But Fremont, I had still never seen at night, and apparently that's where a lot of craziness happened. And there actually was a very legendary story taking place there with another crazy person, and it was some crazy people out at Fremont. But it was about 2 a.m. Actually, I did what probably, I don't know. I had some success with it. I actually went out on my own around 2 a.m. Friday night to we had just wrapped up karaoke, which we tried to do karaoke, but because the crowd, I think I started that. We tried to do karaoke, but the crowd was way too big. We had maybe about an hour and a half wait to sing. Like, no, absolutely not. So we just hung around, had a few drinks, sung along with some of the songs that were being played, and then left. And most of us were three cheers to the wind. Not me. Actually, I managed to control my alcoholic intake, only barely. Primarily because I was just sick of waiting in line. We're just kind of all around doing stuff. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, so I get back, and then we're kind of staying, and we're a bunch of us are just sitting around Iron Selena's room, just talking and chatting at the end of the night, and then I'm wide awake. I don't know how. I think I'm surprised the coffee that I had was working that late into the night. So we're steps away from Fremont Street. So eventually the night just ends. I'm like, I'm gonna go. Still haven't seen Fremont Street at night. I'm gonna go. So I go. I take a 10-minute loop, and that's it. Because I'm definitely an out of towner. I'm not dressed for the cold desert air, and I'm definitely I stand out. I'm a tall guy. I'm alone. I'm wearing a flowered shirt. I look like Magnum PI, and I do not regret that at all. But I thought, I'll just take a look. It was beautiful. It was huge. I can't believe something that cool got made. But yeah, and it was a blast. Half the fun, we're just hanging out. I didn't really even say hi to Gary at the meetup itself. I was just there hanging out. I got to say hi to Melissa and Ryan and Garrett, but I did say hi to Gary once, and Chris Gore. Got a picture with Chris Gore. It's pretty cool. This brew was there, but he was there last year. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. But it was just really, really cool how down to earth and how genuine all these guys are. Like they're just good people. They just want to hang out with their fans, and as evidenced by the fact that they've done this for 5 years and they don't charge anything. And I think that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. I'm really happy to be part of this fandom. And I did actually score some cool stuff. So I got Von Coleman, the guy I was hanging out with. He's trying to be my wingman. I appreciated it. Didn't work, but he's trying to be. But he got me a signed copy of the first issue of his comic book Phenomenova. Really good, by the way. And this is indicative of Final Fantasy cover, like the beginning of the Final Fantasy VII box art, which I think is awesome because this is not just a gimmick. It's actually, this scene actually does more or less take place in the book. And I appreciate that because so many covers have nothing to do with the interior. Absolutely nothing. And it gets irritating because, again, because the cover sells the book, obviously. But for me, I want to know that what draws me into the cover is actually going to be featured in the book. And there are some that definitely do that. I think a lot of the G.I. Joe issues have that exact thing. At least they're indicative. Excuse me. At least they have a stylized version of what happens in the book itself. Some of the Superman covers from the Superman Man of Steel run don't have that. There's nothing on the cover that has anything to do with the interior. But I like this anyway. But I like the book. Really enjoyed it. I'm definitely picking up issue 2. That should be pretty soon, actually. So I'm really happy about that. Also got to pick up some cheap Legos, Lego Architecture, the Paris Skyline. So I've actually been to these places except for the Montparnasse Tower. But that was, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Fun and fellowship, lots of alcohol, lots of walking around. And yeah, I can't wait to go back again. This is a blast. I think I'll definitely go back for an entire week this time, instead of just staying for a few days. But with it being tax week and my job, didn't think it was a good idea. Not that we're necessarily busy during tax week. There's a lot of people who just need random stuff, and I thought it might not be good form for me to just ditch my job during tax week. So okay, that's out of the way. If you want to see actually a much more autistically in-depth version of everything that happened during the meetup, that Von Coleman had a 4-hour, 5-hour stream on Monday night. You can definitely check that out. And then we did another one last night. The Rogues Gallery did another one on Wednesday, detailing everything that we did in Vegas and some interesting stories there. I won't tell them. They're not mine to tell, but some interesting stories that other people got into. I will say this: when you hold on to your money in the presence of the kind of women that you expect to run into in Vegas, it's amazing how many times you don't catch strays when your people are telling the stories, and you have money to buy Legos. I know that doesn't reflect well on me, but I don't care. And speaking of I don't care, I can really pick my topics, can I? So, Andor Season 2. Andor Season 2. Oh boy, this is going to be tough. Because there's been a lot of hubbub about a specific scene in Andor, which I originally do not like. I'm not a fan of what happened. I understand people's arguments about why it's okay. But just on the surface, I'm not the most okay with it. So what happened? So Andor Season 2 premiered, and I was actually visiting one of my friends, who just had a baby, so I was taking a meal over to them. I was like, hey, you want to watch Andor? I'm like, okay, sure. And Season 1 of Andor was absolutely amazing. I loved it. Easily one of the top 5 things in the past decade that was really, really good. Really good. And it wasn't just good in the context of the rest of Disney Star Wars. It was actually good on its own. In fact, the more you think about it, the more you like it, because there's a lot of really great character work happening. There's a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of really cool doublespeak, a lot of really good writing involved. And it was excellent. It's a Soviet spy thriller set in the Star Wars universe, and it worked. They nailed it. It's fantastic. Season 2 premieres, and I don't really know what to think about it, because a lot of people were saying that Andor Season 1 was it took a while to get going. It took a long time to get going, and it did. It did. But it was a slow burn. It was a slow build-up for a reason. We're establishing our characters. We're establishing the stakes. We're establishing the different struggles that they're going through, and it works. That does require a lot of setup, and that's perfectly fine. If you can do it right, absolutely. It's good stuff. Season 2, I'm expecting the same thing. I'm not going to review the entire season. I'm actually just going to talk about one particular scene here for Season 2. But so far, it's okay. There are some things there's some decisions that have been made that I think are not the most intelligent. Probably not decisions that I would have had these characters make, considering what I know about them. But I'm reserving judgment to see it till the end, because like Andor Season 1, I was like, why are we spending so much time here? What's going on? But I could kind of see the thematic through line that was being established here. I don't really see that here so far. We'll see, because I don't trust Disney. I don't really trust anyone who's not Taylor Sheridan to write a decent sequel season to anything. I mean, Arcane Season 2 was abysmal. It was inexcusable what they did with that. Daredevil Born Again, the less said about that crap pile, the better. That should be cast into the fire, and we should never speak of it again. That thing that we shouldn't be getting a Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. That's awful. With everything they did with the character is like, it's Star Wars level disrespectful. And it's shoddy. It's ridiculous. I was needing something that was actually going to be a nice little palate cleanser. Well, in episode 3, because there's 9 episodes. They go in 3-episode arcs. They're going to be releasing every 3 episodes every week. That's what they did this time. I really could not tell you all that happened. There was some kind of Lord of the Flies nonsense that was taking place. It was more funny than it was insightful. And then the payoff at the end of that whole sequence was weird. It turns out they're all in Yavin the whole time. Like, okay. But they're having this weird tiff, and there's 2 different factions that are having a tiff, and Andor's kind of caught in the middle, and Cassian Andor is being caught in the middle, and eventually they play rock, paper, scissors in the middle of a dark clearing that we just established was full of monsters running around, and they all lay down their weapons, and I don't really understand what's going on or why this matters. And then Andor finally flies away in a stolen TIE fighter that we don't really know exactly why he's flying it. And it turns out they're on Yavin 4 the whole time. I don't really know why that's anything. That may set something up later. Who knows? And then there's a wedding between Mon Mothma's daughter, where she is trying. Well, that's actually the best part of it, where she is trying really hard to control a rogue element in her own circle, and that she herself had cultivated. So it's definitely her learning the cost of this rebellion, which she's having to marry off her daughter to a guy who's gonna keep her secrets, and she is also having to deal with her oldest friend who she thought she could trust, to be a part of this foundation that she's going to be funneling money to the rebellion through it. And he is growing a little bit desperate. He is losing a lot of his influence, a lot of his money, a lot of his power, his ability to live, and sidling up with another guy who's basically blackmailing her, and he's basically doing the same thing. So he is now a liability, and they're having to figure out what to do with him. That whole thing could have been solved in one episode. It takes us 3 episodes to solve. Now, I don't think, but it's all in the context of a wedding. I don't hate it. I think so far it's been pretty good. And Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma is amazing. She is fantastic. Very, very subtle looks. She gives very, very subtle performances, and she's good. She's a stage actress, so she knows what she's doing. But it was kind of like, what are we doing here? I don't really know where we're going. I don't really know what you're setting up. I don't really know why. But then we get to episode 3, and it involves another storyline that I thought that was interesting. It was space immigrants with no papers being hunted by ICE. Really subtle there, Tony Gilroy. Because if we remember Andor season 1, Tony Gilroy and a lot of the cast were like, "This is the pro-Trump. This is the not pro-Trump, not in their wildest dreams. This is the Trump allegory." Like, piss off. But since this has been made in the before this, I think it's got greenlit. It's been a long time since it's been about 2 years since Andor season 1 was 2022. This is 2025. It's about 3 years. And a lot has changed in between then, and I don't think they would have written Andor season 2 to be a direct Trump allegory, because no way would have Disney even thought about it. But yeah, it's basically some of the fugitives from the first season are now on a harvest planet, and they're basically illegal workers. And the Empire is tracking them down, asking them for their papers and see where they are. And there is the Bix Colleen, who is the woman who was one of Cassian's former lovers, I believe, in the first season. She's the one that was tortured, listening to all the screaming, audio screaming of dying, screaming children. Pretty horrific. Something else horrific happens to her. She almost gets SA'd, or sexually assaulted, or raped. I'm trying to use, I don't know which vocabulary term is going to get me banned on YouTube, and I hope none of them. I'm certainly not monetized, so I don't think it matters. But yeah, she almost gets raped. And how do we know? Because she says it. She screams it. So the whole village is being asked for papers, please. And then she comes across a guy, and the guy's been giving her weird looks, an Imperial officer who's been giving her weird looks the whole time. And he basically tries to not blackmail her, or try to leverage her status as an illegal worker into sexual favors. She refuses, and then he resorts to force to make it happen. Now, there are a lot of people who are standing on their soapbox about this, and it's weird. It has brought out a lot of the weirdest people from the internet. I don't like that. Now, I fully understand the arguments for it. I certainly understand the arguments for the arguments in context for having this be the case. I get it. I totally get it. But I want to be very, very clear. That does not belong in Star Wars. Star Wars is not that kind of show. It's not. Star Wars is not that kind of movie. Star Wars is not that kind of property. Yes, you have you have people blowing up. You have the Empire blowing up planets. You have Anakin killing younglings. We have evil behavior, evil acts being portrayed on screen. We've had it in the Empire since the first Star Wars. I am well aware of that. I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan longer than half of you've been alive. But it was weird. It was weird seeing that on screen. And the kind of people defending it are also just as strange. So let me share with you a statement by one of Star Wars Theory has been pretty about his disdain and his displeasure here. He said, sexual assault in Star Wars feel unnecessary. You can portray power dynamics and making the audience hate the Empire in other ways without taking it to such a disgusting place. I agree with that. Vader wouldn't tolerate that shit, nor does the Empire condone it. What Vader does or does not tolerate does not necessarily play into what the Empire does. Because remember, at this point, Vader is not necessarily a prominent leader in the Empire. He's kind of Tarkin's attack dog at this point. And he ends by saying, "It is no place in Star Wars. Period. Unnecessary." So I want to read some of these replies here because I think this is actually interesting. So it said, "Bro, I love your content, but the Empire wouldn't tolerate it. Come on, you honestly think if Vader saw that, he wouldn't kill the guy and leave? Heck, he might kill the girl too, but no way he'd let that imp live. If he saw imps, Imperials killing younglings or anyone, he really wouldn't give a fuck." I don't necessarily agree with. I don't know. I don't know. I think we're going into what here he says he's kind of going into what Vader would or would not tolerate. I don't think it's really relevant here. Now I hate this justification. This is something that happens in war. It's an adult show. Yeah, we know it happens in war, but does it happen in Star Wars? No, it has never happened in Star Wars on screen. Okay, stop. It's an adult show. No, Star Wars should be for kids and adults. It was that way for the original trilogy. It was that way for the prequel trilogy, and the sequel trilogy was fit for nobody's consumption. Vader brutally murdered children and killed millions. I mean, he cut them with a lightsaber. If I'm going to be cut by something, lightsaber is going to be a bit different. The fuck you mean he wouldn't tolerate it? Like, yeah, but you got to remember this was all in context with a purpose. They're evil. That's kind of their thing, bro. Shut up. I hate this attitude. I freaking hate it. It's so pretentious. It's so pretentious. It just reeks of the quote media literacy crowd. And but Star Wars Theory combats it actually pretty well. He said, "Do you even understand why Vader did what he did and cried later? He was trying to save his wife under his own illusions. What the fuck does sexual assault do for the plot here? You can't be seriously comparing the two in their place to Star Wars. That's insane." He is correct. He is correct. I'll stop sharing here because he's saying the same thing. He is correct. They are two completely different actions, two completely different behaviors with two completely different responses, with two completely different contexts and two completely different endpoints and end goals. The reason Anakin goes all out to killing the Jedi is because that's what that was the first order the Emperor gave him as Darth Vader: kill the Jedi. And the Emperor is the one who has, and according to Vader, as far as Vader knows, has Padme's life in his hands. What he wants is for Padme to survive. He will do anything to make that happen, no matter how disgusting, no matter how horrible. Yes, but he doesn't rape the children before he kills them. That's a whole nother set of crimes. Killing someone has its uses. It does. Otherwise, wars wouldn't be fought. Killing someone has its purpose. There is a goal that specifically you are trying to get by doing. Now, same thing. Rape and sexual assault have the same, do kind of have the same thing, but you don't think, I don't know. They're two completely different crimes, two completely different sets of abominable behavior with a completely different context. To kill someone usually you're removing a threat or doing a favor for somebody that will get you favor in someone else's mind, but that's it. There's no lasting consequences for the victim. The victim's dead. That's it. Rape is different. You are intentionally trying to hurt somebody. And if you leave them alive, you're leaving them alive with that memory of being assaulted. For people to die, it's a one and done thing. And I'm not saying one way or another. I'm not saying do one over the other. I'm not saying that, but there are two completely different behaviors. We've never seen that in Star Wars. Hell, we haven't really seen sexuality in Star Wars anyway. And I get that it exists. I understand it exists. And we see Han Solo putting the, as the kids say, putting the riz on Princess Leia in the original trilogy. Fine. Anakin and Padme didn't get pregnant holding each other's hands on their wedding night. Come on. We know what happens. And even in the expanded universe, there are some implications and stuff. And even on screen, and in Clone Wars and Rebels, there's some implications. But again, they are implications. And it's just weird to debase Star Wars like this. I'm sorry. It is just a debasement of Star Wars to make it like HBO. We would see this on Game of Thrones. We'd see this on House of the Dragon. We'd see this on Sopranos. We would see this on Boardwalk Empire. We would see this kind of stuff on paid cable, not Disney Star Wars that can't decide what tone it wants to strike. By the way, we've gone from the Amblin Entertainment kids show skeleton crew And then we go from the acolyte that is clearly as horny as hell. And Leslie Headland should really go to prison for all of that because, man, she's certainly telling us what part she had in Harvey Weinstein, what she had in Harvey Weinstein's whole operation. She definitely skirted with sexuality quite a bit. And she was even responding, yeah, this is probably the gayest Star Wars ever. I mean, sexual politics are still there, but they're trying to be as inoffensive as humanly possible. I'm sorry, sexual assault does not belong here. Kids watch this. It's an adult show. Yeah, so kids watch it anyway. It's Star Wars. Star Wars is for everyone. Star Wars is for kids and adults. And it should be that way. It should stay that way. George Lucas wrote Star Wars for an audience George Lucas wrote Star Wars for an audience that was both young and old. It's a universal story that could apply to anybody. Yeah, there are some laughs here and there, but this is weird. This is weird that this is here. Like, I don't like it. I understand the arguments, but I don't like it. It doesn't belong here. Thank you, Selena. That's very true. Appreciate it. Doesn't belong. This shit doesn't belong in Star Wars. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. You can have plenty of reasons why it may or may not have worked in the Andor show, and sure it does. And could I believe that would happen all across a galaxy far, far away? Absolutely, I could. I could 100% believe that it happened, but I don't need to see it. And there are plenty of better ways that you could have depicted it. Imply stuff. Imply it. Go back to the George Lucas New Hollywood style of movie making, where you implied and then contained Steven Spielberg. You imply way more than you show. Because remember, the death of Jango Fett was going to be much more violent than it was. But George Lucas is like, no. I've had it's enough. We just his head needs to just cough his head. He's done. We're good. And then you have Anakin killing the younglings. We're actually going to see that happen. He's like, nah, I can't do that. There are plenty of reasons where George decided what was going to go on screen and what wasn't. And once the blow has been struck, once the blaster bolt has hit you, we don't linger on the lasting effects of a blaster effect on the wounds. It's not Saving Private Ryan. We don't sit here in the camera and linger on the effects of a blaster bolt to the chest. That's stupid. They're completely different properties. And to debase Star Wars like this is not going to lead anywhere good, because Disney is not going to leave this alone. Disney is going to learn the wrong lessons from this. They're going to look at the praise that they're getting. Oh, we have this weird thing in Star Wars now. You're going to have all sorts of weird things in Star Wars from now on. Now, granted, all the weird things in Star Wars already existed, but just having this one last weird thing that doesn't belong, it's right up Disney's alley. They can't decide what tone they want to strike. They need to adjust the rating on this. If they're going to do it, fine, but they need to adjust the rating on this. And because already this show is definitely built for a kid show, because you can see the lighting, you see the costumes, the set pieces. It's bright, it's colorful, it's sunny, it's rather pleasant. There's a funny, almost slapstick tone to some things sometimes. But this is weird. Sexual assault doesn't belong in Star Wars. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Argue for its inclusion in the script all you want. Perfectly fine, I can understand your arguments. But don't defend it vehemently. Make your argument, sure. But we got to be very, very careful with stuff like this, because if you want to start deftly handling sensitive topics in your D+ shows, you got to do it well. You got to do it right. You got to do it in a way that does not debase yourself by depicting it in the wrong way. This is the wrong way. It does not belong here. There's so many different ways you could film this. Make it subtle, make it unobvious, make it imply more than you show. Because Tony Gilroy definitely seemed to want to rub our faces in it a little bit. Not really rub our faces, but he wanted to make absolutely sure we knew what was going on. Because Bix stumbles out of that hovel saying he tried to rape me. Yeah, no kidding. We could see that. I get it. Idiots. Like, you don't need to be so obvious. Treat your audience like we're intelligent. Stop this. This is nonsense. This is stupid. And don't defend it so vehemently. And do not, for the love of God, yeah, I'm already seeing this. For the love of God, do not use it as some kind of political cudgel to own the chuds. Because I've already seen one of the stupidest justifications I've ever seen with someone saying, if you don't like of course it was some media literacy woman, some idiot on Twitter, saying, if you don't like the fact that sexual assault being displayed in your films, it just reeks of privilege. Like, piss off. Maybe there's a reason I don't like it. Maybe there's a reason it doesn't appeal to me. Not in a kid's show, for God's sake. Especially was weird. Disney of all things, they don't issue a warning. They won't even have Song of the South on Disney Plus, but they won't issue any kind of trigger warning like they usually do for any of their other stuff. Yeah, sure, you'll have Indians in Peter Pan, and you'll have to give a trigger warning that this contains outdated depictions of stuff and it's of their time, but you won't give a trigger warning in front of this, saying this scene depicts scenes of sexual assault. Are you kidding me? You'll bury that one? Come on. It's like Disney is going to learn, like I said before, Disney is going to learn all the wrong lessons that we're going to get. And depending on how this gets, what kind of traffic this gets responded to, whatever Disney decides to read on whether or not this works or not, we're going to get a lot of weird stuff in Marvel and Disney and Star Wars and everything that they've touched. Because remember, even though USAID money has dried up and even though they're firing a bunch of people, none of this crap's going to go away. I will say, though, there's one actual good thing that will come out of this. Is that just by that whole scene's inclusion, I can probably tell that Disney has no hand in this. Because if this were trying to make it past the Disney board, the Disney creative board, there's no way they would have let this fly in Andor. So that is kind of nice to see, the fact that they have so little control over this that Tony Gilroy can just put it in and film it, shoot it, release it, and we're good, and it stays. I mean, the Disney of the past 10 years certainly would not have allowed that. Would not have let that happen. Unless, of course, they did allow that to happen because it happens to a woman. Interesting. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't like it. I don't think it's cool. I don't think we should be doing it. I don't think Star Wars is the place that we should be tackling those kind of situations. And I do understand. And I do want to address one more thing, actually. That light is not doing me any favors. So Tony Gilroy actually did have an interesting point where he's been taken wildly out of context. So just please read the whole article. And I wish I could find it. It's all over the internet. So Gilroy was saying we can. He's the creator and writer, by the way. He's saying we are all basically the products of rape. Now that is a stupid thing to say, but it's not exactly what he's saying. It is a gross oversimplification of a larger point he's trying to make, and that larger point is that as far as subjugation, as far as imperialism goes, as far as civilizations subjugating other civilizations across time, that's going to be part of it. That kind of evil is going to be part of it, and obviously we know that. Anyone who studied any degree of history is going to know that from the beginning. We are well aware. The entirety of liberal pinko politics is exactly that. Just everything is suffering. It's all terrible. It's all awful, and you're a terrible person for benefiting from the system. I get it. The entirety of human history is about subjugation. It is about suffering. Expansion invites conflict, and conflict brings suffering. Unfortunately, war is part of who we are as humanity. Star Wars even is a microcosm of basically the entirety of war. It's just one. Well, I'm not going to go into that, but basically he was saying that he said that this is where all of this leads. This is the kind of thing that happens with these kind of fascistic, totalitarian governmental states, communist states that are just there to subjugate and destroy, and their power. The power will go to their heads. Bad things will happen to people who they perceive as weak and inhuman. And he's right. What he said was right. How he summarized it was not. Saying we are all basically the products, the products of rape. No, we're not, buddy. No, we're not. That's a really dumb way to. There's a really dumb way to put that, because I'm not. And some people may be, and you know what? That's perfect. That's perfectly fine. No shade. No shade on them. They live. They still live. They're still people. Congratulations. But it's just weird. It's split the fan base, but not in a good way. Because before it was whether or not Rose Tico was a good character. She's not. But then you had the Last Jedi defenders who were, for some reason, defending the Last Jedi, and that was stupid because they're wrong. They're objectively wrong. And then you have real Star Wars fans who are like, none of this is real, and all of this is stupid. Can we just not do this anymore? And this is the kind of divide in Star Wars I don't like to see. Not that I really care about Star Wars anymore, but I did think that was at least worth bringing up and at least worth talking about for a minute. Because the Discord is going to go on for maybe a day, for maybe one more day, and then that's it. And you can go watch the show and let me know what you think about it. I'd love to hear if you want to go back and watch the stream, see if I'm correct, and then so tell me what you think down in the comments. And I would like to know, because I understand both sides of the argument, but I just think it's weird. I don't like Star Wars to be debased like this. So anyway, now that we've gotten the serious stuff out of the way, let's read a book about World War I. Back in Jeff Shiraz to the Last Man. Going to continue our story. We haven't even made it past the first chapter. My goodness. So it's been a bit. So if you remember what happened in the previous chapter, we had a new recruit arrive. He was the last one in his entire unit, and he was the last one in his entire unit. And he watched a shell strike took out everybody, and so he's making his way to the front of the line, where he's watched his commanding officer, of course, die in front of him. Kind of horrible. And so this is his so he watched his commanding officer die, so now he's on his way back to the front. Okay, I'm take a sip of my tea because I need it. Homemade chamomile, by the way. I didn't make it, but there was went to a farmer's market not too long ago. I don't want to hear it. And there was a lady there who is a foodie, and she is selling tea. And but she does it from a foodie's perspective. So it was chamomile, vanilla, and something else. Quite good, really good. It was a little bit of honey to sweeten it up. Oh, it's like candy. Ah, man. Yep. No tannins in it either. Very delicious. It's herbal, so it's going to be good for you. I'll sleep good tonight. I need it. I haven't slept a full night in like 2 weeks. Because for a full week leading up to Vegas, my fire alarm kept going off between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. God, I was about to kill somebody. It was insane. And then, and of course, Vegas. Slept hardly at all. And then since then, it's been the same thing. I've been trying to get off of the 2-hour time difference and then back into Central Time. But, all right, let's continue to the Last Man. I get to a better position because trying to read this, and aim toward the mic has been kind of difficult. The guard led him through a maze of mud and water, a deep, stinking ditch that finally led to an opening on the side of a low hill, and then wooden steps leading down into wet, stinking darkness. His guide pointed the way and then followed him down. The steps made a sharp turn to one side, and he was surprised to see a large room, a cave carved into the dirt, timbers over his head, wood planks on the floor. The room was lit by a small flicker from a candle on a low wooden table. 2 men sitting, officers. One said, "Who's he, Corporal?" His guide was still behind him up on the steps. He said, "Greeny, sir. Sergeant Cower's squad. Only one made it through. No sign of Cower." Damn! He could see the officer clearly, a captain, a small man, a thin mustache, staring at him. The captain motioned to the guide and said, "All right, Corporal. After breakfast, find me some more if you can. Half of them probably all lost in the mud. Not like Cower to lose his way." "Yes, sir." "Sir, I was with Sergeant Cower. He was badly wounded. He ordered me." "I don't believe he survived, sir." Damn! Cower knew better than to try to come forward that close to daybreak. Fritz throws his artillery at us every morning like an alarm clock. Anyone else make it in, Private? I don't believe so, sir. I didn't see anyone else. The Germans hit a cannon. Just one, the captain laughed, unexpected. He's losing his touch. Those Heine? I'm going to say Heine. It's Heine. Gunners know every inch of that ground back there. I'm curious where'd that word come from? Usually it's a nickname of some sort, because the Hun, it's like from this German. The older man moved papers on the table, handed one to the captain. He could see a map spread on the table, looked beyond into dark corners, saw a narrow bell, a small stove, a black tin smokestack, leading up through the timbers above. He studied the older officer, realized he was a colonel. He was surprised, straightened himself. Reflex. Had never been so close to a high-ranking officer. Excuse me. The captain scanned the paper, said, "Yes, here he is. Appears he's the only one left out of a couple dozen." Christ. The captain paused, looked at him. "Welcome to our piece of heaven, Private. This is your lucky day in more ways than one. Company B is down to 12 men. You're number 13. You'll report to Lieutenant Graves. Where's your backpack, your mess?" "I'm sorry, sir. I lost most of my equipment in the attack." "It wasn't an attack, Private, just a little fireworks show. You'll learn the difference. Corporal, take this man to his post." He saluted, waited, seemed to be ignored, and after a long moment, the captain glanced up, returned the salute, said nothing, returned to his papers. His guide said, "This way, Greenie." The corporal moved away, up the dark wooden steps. He followed, heard a voice behind him, the colonel. "Damn it, they're dying faster than we can get them into line." The lieutenant was a young man, not much older than he was, a surprise. A boyish face staring at him with a discomforting mix of anger and fear. One man. One damned replacement. We're at 1/10 strength, and they send me one damned Greenie. No word on when we might get more, I suppose. He realized it was a question, said, "I don't know, sir." Graves seemed disgusted by his answer, and he felt suddenly to blame. "No, of course you don't know. I'm betting you don't know much else either. Did they actually train you, Private?" He felt his patience giving way, could feel himself sagging into the mud under his feet. "Yes, sir. 4 months. Yes, fine, 4 months. A seasoned veteran. Let me explain something to you. Let me explain something to you, Private. You are one more rifle. We need 50. They expect me to hold this part of the line." The lieutenant stopped, looked down. He could see a difference in the officer's face now, the fear growing, erasing the anger. Graves pointed down the trench line. "Go on, there. Round the curve, then turn left. There's a row of dugouts. Find one for yourself. With all that training they gave you, you should know what happens next. If not, just ask." "You had breakfast?" He shook his head. "No, sir, my backpack was lost. There's food up there. There's always something. One thing they won't let us do is starve." Graves turned away, disappeared down a dark hole into the side of the trench. He looked where Graves had pointed, more narrow duckboards bridging black muddy water, then looked up, saw a gray sky framed by the sandbags along the top of the trench. He stepped carefully, followed the curve in the trench, saw another deep ditch branching off to the left, turned, could see a half-dozen men now, a wide flat space, sloping ground, water deep on one side. 3 men were squatting low, perching like filthy birds on the dry side of the trench floor. The other 3 were standing up above them, on a shelf of boards and hard dirt, leaning up beside tall, narrow openings on the fat sandbags. Farther down the trench, there were holes cut into the dirt walls. The dugouts, no more than 3 feet high and just as wide, but deeper, extending back into the dark earth. Some had feet sticking out, mud-caked boots, men lying motionless. Faces began to look his way, dark eyes appearing under the rims of rag-colored helmets. One of the men said, "Who the hell are you? Is this Company B?" "That's a military secret. One more time. Who the hell are you?" "Lieutenant Graves told me to come this way. I'm reporting to B Company. I'm a replacement." "A replacement for what?" A pair of boots began to move, the legs withdrawing. Then a bare head emerging from one of the dugouts, and the man said, "How many of you?" The man dragged himself out, stood up slowly, stretched his back, his shirt carrying a corporal's stripes. "Just me. I'm the only one who made it. We were attacked by artillery." The corporal moved close to him, appraising. Said, "Cowards group? He told me last night we were getting the next bunch. Sergeant Coward did not survive. We took a direct hit. No one else survived." The words came out easily, surprising him. Except you. I suppose so. The faces glared at him, motionless, and one man said, Windy, I'll bet. You run, Greenie? You leave your buddies out there, looking for your mama down here in this hole? He realized the man was calling him a coward, but there was no energy, no emotion in the words, and he had none himself. Said only, I didn't run. I was last in line. The sergeant said my backpack saved me before he died. The corporal glanced at the man who spoke, said, Leave it be, Snake. He's in here, one piece. We'll take what we can get. So, Greenie, you got no pack? You look like you spent the night in a shell hole. Maybe Snake's right. Maybe you're windy, eh? We had a few little boys like you who run like hell when the shooting starts. Advice for you, Greenie. They don't run far. Fritch has a special talent for killing cowards. Safest places for you is right here in this hole. He looked at the others, heard small laughs. The man called Snake still staring at him with hard, unsmiling eyes. Another man stood now, said, Where are you from? Alston, west of Newcastle, farm town. Yeah, I know. I got family near there. Need something to eat? Anything you can spare. I forgot to remind you. Forgot to mention. This is the British Army. Crap. Lost my place. The corporal turned away, moved back to his dugout, said, "There's plenty, Greenie. They still send rations up here for men who were carried out of this hole days ago. All right, Duke, he's yours. Feed him. Show him where to sleep. Make sure his rifle's not full of crud. He'll be on the line tonight. Give him the drill." He looked back again at the man called Duke, now standing in front of him. Tall, thin, a ragged beard, and the man said, "This way, Greenie. Watch your step. That water's about 4 feet deep." Oof. He followed, the others now ignoring him, all except Snake. "You go windy on us, and I'll stick you." The man's cold stare cut into him, and Duke said, "Leave him be, Snake. He'll be all right. Come on, Greenie." They eased around a curve in the trench, and he saw more dugouts, but no signs of men. "Take any of these. Make it your own. Mine's right here. Chateau Duke." Duke sat, reached back into the small cave, pulled out a heavy backpack, then leaned further inside the dugout, dragged out a wooden crate. "Here you go, Duke. Here you go. Duke's Fine Eatery. It used to be Duke's Pub, but the rum's been scarce for a while." He sat, watched as Duke picked through all the crates, all the sides of metal tins, some with labels, some unmarked. "Only have what comes in the tin cans. Rats get everything else. I'd offer you a spare backpack, but the rats chews those up too. We lose a man, and before he's even to the ambulance, the rats have cleaned up any sign of him. So probably pretty good about replacing equipment, though. I'll make sure the lieutenant sends word back." "Thank you. Your name really Duke?" The man kept searching, examining the tins, said, "Doesn't matter. The only man who needs to know my name is a lieutenant, so your mama can get her letter." He shoved the crate back into the dugout, spread the variety of food on the ground in front of him. "Take your pick. Bully beef, jam, canned biscuits, more bully beef. Never run out of that. Great factories all over England devoted to turning a perfectly respectable cow into this bloody swill." He was suddenly very hungry, reached for a tin of the beef. Duke said, "We can heat it up. Got a Tommy cooker back here somewhere." "No, it's all right. This'll do." Duke laughed, said, "If you say so. You passed your first test, Greenie. A rare display of courage." He felt around his belt, drew his bayonet, stabbed at the tin. The thick brine sprayed out, the pickle smell now overpowering. He kept cutting the tin, finally ripped a large hole in the top, stabbed with the dense wad of meat, held it up, the salty liquid dripping down the dull blade of the bayonet. He took a large bite, and Duke laughed again, said, "Slow down, Greenie. This isn't Blighty. They trained us to eat a whole meal in 10 seconds. Out here you have all day. If Fritz hasn't attacked us by now, we have the rest of the day off." He could feel Duke watching him, felt genuine warmth in the man, not like any of the others. He took a long drink from his water bottle, felt a dent in the tin, realized now that the bottle had been hit by shrapnel. Duke saw him fingering the dent. "The bloke who led you up here, Cower? A good man, you know. He'd volunteered to bring out the replacements every time. Finally, the captain stopped asking the rest of us, just gave him the job for the whole battalion. He used to fetch 100 at a clip, but lately we might see a couple dozen or one." Duke paused, gathered up the empty food tins. "Supply will probably refit you, new backpack and all. Could take a while. Could loan you a few things." Duke pointed. "You still got the important things. Bayonet, gas mask." Duke ran his fingers down both sides of his stomach, scratched hard, dug fingers into his filthy shirt, made a small grunt. "Got him, little bastard. They got to you yet?" Too soon, I bet. Give him a day. One thing about cooties, you'll never worry about being alone. He had heard all the stories about cooties, that every man in every trench was infested. It was unavoidable. Some kind of lice that found its way into your clothes and multiplied until it tormented every part of a man's body. At Blighty, they had issued each man a small container of insect powder, and the sergeants were quick to point out the deception on the label. Good for body lice, with the assurance that indeed it was. The cooties loved the stuff. You best clean your rifle. I've got some oil here. I'll pull through. Digger says you're going to be up on the line tonight. Your rifle better be clean. Only thing that makes Digger mad. The corporal? Digger. Word of advice, when they issue a new pack, store the gun oil with the cheese ration. Makes the cheese taste like sardines. You smoke? No. You will. I have a good bit of shag here. I'm not sure where the army gets this stuff. Package says imported. Pretty sure it's imported from some Irishman's barnyard. Got some anti-frostbite grease here. Works like a charm for waterproofing boots. Your boots leak? Duke looked at the thick mud caked on his boots. Too late for that. Digger's right. You look like you spent some time in a shell hole. Don't take them off, though. He tried to flex his toes, felt them grip tightly in a block of muddy cement. Why not? Once they've been soaked like that, you'll never get them back on again. Just wait a while. They'll dissolve. Your sock will hold out a while longer. Last pair had to be cut off my feet. A damn nurse picked into the pieces with tweezers. Grew right into my skin. Inside of your poor boot, just like some kind of chemistry lab. All manner of biology goes on in there. Best we don't know. Underwear. Different story. Can't spare that. Don't worry, the Army's good about delousing and generous with the underwear. We get pulled out of here, they won't let us near civilization till we get stripped down and scrubbed. Amazing how a man's dreams can narrow down to such a simple luxury, clean underwear. He was impressed with the man's obvious experience, was feeling overwhelmed. How long have you been here? This hole? Well, I don't know. One hole or another. 5, 6 months. They keep calling this a stalemate. Pretty damn stale, that's for sure. Winter was pretty quiet, so we just stayed put. The lieutenant said they forgot about us. Could be. Sure as hell ought to forget about him. Green replacements are one thing. Green officers just get people killed. Graves showed up here sometime around Christmas, replaced Lieutenant Dunnigan. Good officer, that man. Killed on night patrol right next to me. He paused, knocked a piece of mud from his boot. So the young Lieutenant Graves arrives in the middle of a snowstorm and right away wants us to fall in formation, do some kind of drills, show him we're real soldiers. Captain had to talk some sense into him. Probably kept him alive. He stopped, the smile gone. Bother you, Greenie? Disrespecting my lieutenant? They don't teach you anything about that in Blighty. They tell you all officers are geniuses, from Marshal Haig all the way down to his bloody jackass Graves. Here's a military secret, Greenie. They lied. He gathered his pack together, slid back into the dugout. Anything you need, let me know. The man's words had filled him with curiosity, his mind filling with questions. Sorry, excuse me. You just stay right here? This trench? Seems mighty temporary. It is, actually. This particular corner of hell has only been here for a month or so. We have to move every so often. Damn things just fill up with water, no way to drain them. The whole part of the world is just one big swamp. Remember, I think they're in Flanders. The water's got to go somewhere. You dig a hole, it's going to fill up. Some engineer finally figured out if you slope the bottom, the water might stay on one side. Works for a while, like right now. Won't last. A good hard rain and this thing will fill up about waist deep. Then they'll move us again if Fritz cooperates. If we get pulled out of here every couple of months, spend a week in a rest area, Red Cross, YMCA centers, actual women, God's gift to the Army. When I came up, the regiment was near full strength. Never knew half the people in the company. Lieutenant Dunnigan had a full command. Thought about the time he got hit. Started losing men pretty regular. Fritz started this little artillery display every dawn, and damned if he didn't drop at least 1 or 2 down our throats every damn time. Graves and the captain been screaming at the rear for replacements. The whole regiment's weak. Each company gets whatever they can send us. That's where you come in. He scratched at his stomach, seemed to drift away for a long moment, pinched hard at another tormentor under his shirt. No more strangers at Company B. Know them all by now. All 12. He looked up. 13. All right, 5 minutes left. We'll work. We will finish out the chapter. We'll get to the next. Never mind. Take a sip of tea though. Whew. Up to the next little section, and then we will end. Well, we're not even done with the chapter. Okay, cool. Sounds good to me. He had chosen one of the dugouts at random, and Duke had given him a waterproof sheet to cover the damp ground. He spread it over the hard dirt, slid himself inside as far as he could. His feet still hung out onto the trench, and he thought of the man whose work had created this small sanctuary. Shorter, he supposed. The dugout grew narrow and shallow in the back, and he lay with his helmet as a pillow, his face only inches from the dirt above him. He wasn't usually afraid of tight spaces, but had to fight it now. He kept his eyes closed, annoyed that sleep had not come quickly. The dugout was deathly quiet, the earth around him shielding him from anything that might be happening above ground. Of course, likely nothing was happening up there. No one would be above ground in daylight. They taught him that much at Blighty. This network of trenches faced no man's land, and Duke had told him that the Germans were only 300 yards away. The only barrier, vast, thick coils of barbed wire, and of course the rifles of the lookouts. There hadn't been a major assault against these lines in months, and no one seemed afraid that the Germans would suddenly start something. The daily ritual, the shelling, was all the war that these men were facing now, and yet they were still vulnerable, holed up like rats, dying in their protected places, victims of bad luck. He opened his eyes, stared up into the dark earth. Right here, a perfect tomb. Every part of him was stiff exhaustion, but the sleep would not come. He could not avoid thinking about the night before, the awful march, made terrifying by the shelling. The men who had died didn't seem real to him anymore. Names forgotten already. Well, of course, no names. These men don't want to know, because if you die, they'll forget you anyway. They didn't teach that at Blighty. Make no friends. Duke seems different. Something in his character. A teacher, maybe, eager to help. But how many has he helped, and how many of those has he forgotten? Except for Sergeant Cower. He remembers him, they all do, even the officers. I thought he was such a bastard, loud-mouthed and mean. He was no bastard at all. Just did his job, leading greenies like me to the front. He knew he was dying and still did his job, sent me off in the right direction. Don't forget him. A shock woke him, and he rose up, his face smacking the dirt above him, a small cave-in filling his eyes and nose. What? What? Wake up, Greenie. Sun's going down. It's your watch. He felt hands around his legs, pulling him out of the dugout, blinked through the dirt, saw Duke and the corporal behind them. Graves stood with his hands clasped behind him. He said, Good. Get him up on the parapet. Give him the drill. No mistakes, Private. You'll learn quickly out here. I'll be in my quarters. The young lieutenant was gone, and Duke pointed back into the dugout. Said, Your rifle, Greenie. Be needing that, you know. He retrieved the rifle, followed the two men to the larger space where the shelf was, sandbags stacked high up on one side of the trench. The corporal pointed, and Duke said, Up you go. I'll be right next to you. Both men stepped up onto the parapet, a stiff, wide board 3 feet above the bottom of the trench. Duke glanced at the nearest opening in the sandbag, said, Keep your face away from here until it's full dark. When the snipers can't see, we'll put the rifles up into the slots. We hung a few bells out in the barbed wire this week. Some genius at headquarters actually had a good idea. Should let us know if Fritz is trying to do something nasty. The corporal was down behind them, said, You have 2 hours watch starting at full dark about a half hour from now. I'll relieve you for 2 hours rest, and you're back up again. He felt an icy chill held tight to his rifle. Hoped no one would see he was shaking. Duke looked back toward the corporal, said, Don't worry, he'll be all right. Duke looked at him now, no smile on his bearded face. Right, Greenie? He nodded, his throat tight, and Duke reached down, helped another man up onto the parapet. Evening, Cutter? The other man said nothing, leaned back against the sandbags, lit a ragged cigarette. He looked up, saw fading daylight, the sky still a dull gray. He focused his eyes, fought against the last bit of dirt, pulled his helmet down snugly on his head. Something grabbed his foot and he jumped, startled, saw a man down below. The man jumped with him, cursed, said, For God's sake, man, it's just the bombs. I cleaned them off. Jesus, Duke, what's his problem? Afraid he might die? The man laughed now and disappeared down the trench. Excuse me. Duke said, I assume they taught you how to throw a Mills bomb. He stared at the half-dozen steel balls beside his feet, each one with a small handle, the round ring of its pin protruding from the top. I can throw them. He just surprised me. He reached down, held one in his hand, the heavy steel that fit his grip perfectly. He recalled the training, dozens of drills. Pull the pin, hold, count to 3, the proper method of throwing. He glanced up again, measured the height of the sandbags, taller than what they had used at Blighty. Duke said, if Fritz makes a dash for us, don't just depend on the rifle. They teach you that? He nodded. Once we know he's out there, we can start throwing these things at him as fast as we can. They'll bring us more pretty quick. Fritz doesn't care for Mr. Mills. Cutter was on the far end of the parapet, saying, Dark enough, Duke. Yep. They raised their rifles, slid them into the handbags, the guns resting, balanced perfectly. Give it a minute, Cutter. I bet Billy Bosch is on duty tonight. The two men leaned back against the sandbags, faced towards the rear of the trench, seemed to be waiting for something. He mimicked their every move, waited as they waited. And suddenly there was a loud whack against the sandbags, then another. Duke laughed. There's one sniper over there. Now as we start manning these lookouts at dark, he's probably had a rifle sighted on this slit for hours. Hasn't gotten us yet. We used to put bets whether or not he'd actually hit the center opening. Had a wood target set up across the trench in case the shot made it through. He never did. Then one night a 77 shell hit the target. Took 4 men with it. He paused. Took some fun out of the game. Cutter lit another cigarette, said, I give a bottle of Highland brew to the bastard who could stick that bloody Bosch bastard. Cutter, if you ever found a bottle, you wouldn't share it with Marshal Haig himself. I would if he'd go over there and stick Billy Bosch. By the way, Bosch is another nickname for name for German military. He tried to share the humor, the low laughter, but couldn't take his eyes from the opening in the sandbags. He waited for several minutes, and Duke said, All right, blokes, all quiet. They moved closer to the sandbags, stand out through the opening, and he could see a low, squat mass spread all across the ground in front. The barbed wire. It was the first time he had seen no man's land, but there was nothing really to see. He held his eyes wide, tried hard not to blink, heard nothing but the quick thumping in his ears. His own heartbeat. He took a deep breath, tried to calm himself, every part of him straining to see and hear something. Anything. Long minutes passed, the anticipation eating at him. His hands... turn off this light here. His hands gripped tightly around the rifle. His foot moved slightly, touched the row of Mills bombs at his feet, and he rehearsed it in his mind, the sound of the bell, watching a large, hulking shadow moving close, waiting for Duke to move first to be sure. Then one moment, reached down, gripped the bomb, pulled the pin, fling the bomb up, and over the sandbags. His heart was racing again. Come on, I can do this. I'm ready. He felt as awake as he has ever been, his eyes like two searchlights, probing the dark, any movement, his ears cat-like, ready for any small sound. He could hear breathing, not his own, and his heart jumped, his body froze. Focused, realized now it was Duke, only a few feet away. He let out a long breath, spoke silently to himself. The teacher lecturing the recruit. Calm down. Focus to the front. His eye flicked, caught some movement, and he froze again. The voice in his head silent. He stared again, the shadows dancing, then motionless. A trick of the eye. He tried to see the barbed wire, cursed silently. How can I see anything? Damn it, they could be pouring through 100 men right in front of me. If they're quiet, I won't know until they're right here, crawling under the sandbags. He held tight to his breathing, the voice in his head again. Barbed wire, you bloody idiot. Bells. You'll hear the bells. He blinked hard, his eyes suddenly watering. No. He wiped with his sleeve, fought the blurriness. His eyes looked into the blackness again, the strain now slicing through his skull, dull pain working at the back of his neck. He massaged the ache with his hand, blinked again. He could feel cramps creeping into his feet, his legs. He tried to flex his knees, ease the tightness, the voice shouting at him, Greeny, do your duty. Behind him, another voice softened, and he ignored it. Thought, all right, I can do this. Now touching his leg, and he jumped, a sharp sound bursting out. Ah! Jesus, Greeny, get a hold of it, man. Time's up. 2 hours, take a break. He looked at the voice, a hard whisper, could see nothing in the trench, then dull movement below him. It was the corporal. Sorry, yes. All right, I'm coming down. He heard a soft voice close to him, and Duke said, Not so bad, eh, Greeny? You survived your first watch. Most Greenies start shooting at something. Swear they see Fritz coming. Must give the boys across the way a good chuckle. He followed Duke down from the parapet, and immediately the corporal climbed up. Then 2 more men, moving into position. Cutter sat down, lit a cigarette, then said in a low voice, You'll learn, Greeny. Get some rest. 2 hours and we do it again. He could see the shadow of Duke moving away. Followed, heard a harsh sound, stopped. He listened for a moment, realized Duke was coming back towards him, grabbing him by the sleeve. They were at the parapet again and heard a voice, not a whisper, the lieutenant. Everyone but the watch, follow me back to my quarters. The rest of the men seemed to emerge from the darkness, some sliding out of dugouts, no one talking. He was curious. Followed the line of men, turning right out of the front trench, then right again, duck boards and water. He felt his way, his hand reaching out to the man in front of him, saw a sudden flicker of light, the glow of a candle. Graves on the far side of the light said, "Gather up. When we're done here, take word back to the watch, fill them in." He paused, seemed to gather himself, stared down into the candlelight. "We have received orders. Apparently there has been something in the works for a while. It is not customary that junior officers be informed until the last minute. Tomorrow morning at 400 hours, the artillery will commence a bombardment of the enemy trenches. They will sustain fire for 90 minutes and then cease. During the bombardment, you will be escorted to the regimental embarkation parapet. Ladders are being put in place now. You, or rather we, will await the sound of a single whistle, and along with the rest of the regiment, we will commence and advance towards the enemy. By all estimates, the artillery should destroy any obstacle, including the barbed wire, and any opposition that would otherwise await us on the other side. Command has every confidence that we will achieve our purpose and capture the enemy's defenses, then advance into his artillery. Command has apparently suffered enough of the enemy's nightly barrage. I am told one shell came perilously close to a division headquarters." He looked at the faces, says, "Is the corporal here? I don't see you." "No, sir, he's on the watch." "Inform him of these details. You are dismissed." The candle disappeared at the dugout, and he stood blindly, felt for a hand on his arm, heard the low voice of Duke. "Well, now, you are one lucky bloke, Greenie. On the line for one whole day, and by God, you will share the privilege of going over the top." And with that, we'll end. Didn't end up finishing the chapter. I'm aware of this next section, though. We will finish it next week, and then we'll be on to different things, onto a very different type of war. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you continue to enjoy it on the rewatch. Really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for joining. Appreciate it a lot. Oh, forgot to read comments. So, Screen Queen Selena says, "Hey, Strider." Then MSK says, "You voting for ASE in 2028? What a weird thing to ask." Selena left me for my dad. Yeah, I'm sure he did, MSK. And Selena said, "I'm very true." That's very true. I'm not sure what she meant by that. But thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We will talk to you later, and we will see you on the next one.